Hey, what's up, friends? How we doing? Welcome into a live stream. We are live right now. TNE After Dark, a little spicier, a little more unfiltered, a little more whatever I want to do. We can do. We can do. Anyway, good to be here with you. I am Tim Whitaker, the founder of the New Evangelicals. I'm the host of this segment. We do this every other Wednesday night, give or take, whenever I can. But I do want to give you guys all one big announcement off the top. I will be taking a break from all things TNE in August. My team will be taking over, so I will not be live in the month of August. I will not be posting any new content. I have a few things that are pre-recorded for YouTube that will release. But yeah, I'm taking a break. I'm looking forward to it. I'll be spending time with my family. We're moving into a new house, etc. So yeah, that's what I'll be doing in August. So if you don't hear from me much or see me on Instagram, on the TNE channel, or on YouTube a whole lot live, everything is fine. I'm just taking a break. So, okay. Friends, how we doing? Gosh, I feel like every time I think about going live to talk about something, it feels like old news because there's new news. Like, oh, I don't know. The fact that the Wall Street Journal has reported that, shocker alert, Trump is in the Epstein files, according to Pam Bondi, according to internal sources. I mean, whoa. I'm so shocked. Like, Trump, the guy who brags about grabbing women and who talks about, liking them real young, is mentioned in the Epstein files somewhere. I had no idea. We'll be covering that tomorrow live on the Tim and April show. So if you're not subscribed over on that YouTube channel, make sure that you are. We'll be going into details and going into depth on that tomorrow. But yeah, what's up, guys? I can see all of your chats. It's good to see you. Like, for example, I can do this. Player Drew, gonna miss these lives, but glad you're getting a break. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm looking forward to it. It's really been 4 years of nonstop grinding and making content every day on all kinds of channels. And don't get me wrong, I totally love that. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to do this work on the side of the screen. I am honored that you would even show up to a live at 9 o'clock Eastern to hear me talk and rant. So I appreciate you guys being here. And I am looking forward to just relaxing for a bit and not thinking about the next thing to talk about. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a good month off. My team's amazing. The team is amazing. Melinda Hale, our new executive director, is doing amazing work. So we have very cool things planned. Last thing I'll mention, then we'll kind of get into tonight, is we have new merch. We have some merch out, like this cool shirt that says love, no exclusions or exceptions. We have other merch that you can check out at our merch store. We have mugs, etc. So if you want to support the work that we're doing, that would be great. All super chats tonight will get read live, guaranteed. So if you want to support the work that way, throw me a super chat. We'll read it on the air. But yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot to talk about with this Jubilee video. And yes, Chris, to your point, a broken Musk can still be right twice a day. Absolutely. I will say I am going to be looking to you, audience, a little more than usual for your thoughts. I think I have a poll going on that I cannot see because of my program. So let me log into my YouTube account. I asked you guys if you think that platforming fascists is a good idea or a bad idea. And I would love to see your thoughts on that. I'll be checking in whenever I can. I'm trying to get to it because I have to go into my YouTube channel and click on the live and then see the actual poll results. So right now we're at we're kind of split. 28% of you so far say that yes, it exposes them. 30% say no, it emboldens them, and 41% say unsure. And so, yeah, I want to explain some of my thoughts. I'll be honest with you guys. I've been going back and forth in my mind. I've been talking to some good friends of mine who I trust and listening to their perspectives and just trying to really think through how I feel about the idea of platforming fascists in the way that Jubilee has done. I gotta laugh at this chat. Big D says, "Are you taking a month off from trimming that beard? On a scale that from 1 to Grizzly Adams, how crazy that would look after a month." I will be honest, my beard, when I first started TNE, if you go back to our old videos, my beard is like out to here. It's pretty gnarly, but frankly, it's just too much work. I like having it trimmed up. It's easier. So yeah. Anyway, okay, so look, I want to kind of intro tonight for a few minutes to kind of give my thoughts, and then I do want to watch. Here's the thing, guys. Jubilee is like, they are really picky with people sharing their clips. I even emailed them ahead of time asking for like, hey, what's your policy? Can you give me some kind of guidance? Because technically, Jubilee, if you're watching this, we are a nonprofit organization. So any clips that we share are under fair use because we're responding to them for educational purposes. However, I'm going to play it safe tonight. I do want to play the trailer for this so-called debate. And then I want to kind of get into my thoughts on what they call as a debate these days. And then we'll kind of look into your chats and get your thoughts there. If you're just joining the live, welcome in. Please make sure to give this video a like. That would be so helpful. All super chats get read live on the air. We have new merch. Check it out. So if you have been living under a rock the past... oh, what? Something is playing. Oh, my own live is playing on my iPhone. Let me just mute that. That's awkward. If you've been living under a rock the past few days, which is possible, maybe you took a break off the internet and wanted to get some air, good for you. Jubilee, massive account, released another one of these segments that they call Surrounded. And they've been doing this thing where essentially they get, you know, a popular person somewhere on the spectrum. I'll pull it up. So that way you can see what I'm talking about here. And they do these debates, okay? And it looks like this. Let's see. Here's the playlist. Let me pull up my other screen here. So they do these Surrounded. Oops. I don't want to play it. So I don't want to get flagged because Jubilee is so weird. View full playlist. Here we go. So they do these kinds of things. 1 conservative versus 20 feminists, and Candace Owens is the conservative, and people can jump and grab a chair really quick, and then they can talk and debate for like 5 seconds until they get voted off. So they've had a lot of people. They've had Jordan Peterson. They've had Xander Morris, who was great. They even had this one. I'll be honest, friends. This one here, 1 sports analyst versus 25 NBA NFL fans, was one of my favorites. That's what this format is good for. It was a really enjoyable conversation because we weren't discussing life or death things. And I will say, if you want just a fun version of this format, you should watch that one. Yes, James, we will be getting to that talk with Tim Miller. Oh, thank you for the super chat. We got one here. What's the possibility of Taco Bell, Tim? I got to be honest, Laurel, as much as I want to tell you all, oh, super chat, so I'll buy Taco Bell, I am full. I already had dinner tonight, so I would say it's highly unlikely. But anyway, this format's been going on for a while, a couple months. It's been very successful for them. As you can see, 7 million views, 15 million views, 5 million views. I mean, this makes them a lot of money. 16 million views. Okay, this is a very successful idea. Charlie Kirk was the first one, 30 million views. Okay, so most recently they did this one here, 1 progressive versus 20 far-right conservatives, which honestly this title is misleading. And they were featuring Mehdi Hasan. Now, Mehdi is no joke, guys. Mehdi is, I mean, this guy wrote a book on debating. He is no joke. He knows his stuff. Yes, I have watched the entire almost 2-hour-long video. In my opinion, I think it's pretty clear that Mehdi obliterated these folks. But let's play the trailer so you can just see the kind of people they got for this. I mean, this, I gotta be honest, and you're looking at someone who tracks Christian nationalism for a living. I follow these guys, and I was really shocked by the people that they had on here. Here's the trailer that Jubilee released for this video. Here you go.
My family lineage is settlers from the 1500s. So
You don't look very Native American to me.
I am Native American. Whites are Native Americans. What are you talking about?
You're not.
What are you talking about?
You're a little bit more than a far-right Republican.
Hey, what can I say?
I think you could say I'm a fascist.
Yeah, I am.
Listen to me. I am an immigrant. I'm speaking from personal experience.
Get the hell out.
I don't even like... I should get the hell out.
Yes.
Why?
I don't want you here.
My first claim is Donald Trump is pro-crime and pro-criminal. Donald Trump is defying the Constitution. Immigrants, overall, are good for America. Donald Trump's plan for Gaza is ethnic cleansing. I'm Mehdi Hasan. I'm a journalist. I'm the editor of Zeteo. And today I'm surrounded by 20 far-right conservatives.
So that's the trailer that they dropped. And I gotta be honest, friends, the trailer doesn't even put some of the most extreme clips in there. And it was really jarring to watch these young people, mostly white men. Although there was an Iranian who was in the circle, which was really weird. I mean, the guy couldn't even realize that most people in the circle wanted him gone. But it was really jarring to watch. And, you know, as I was thinking about it, here's kind of why I'm torn. I could see both sides of this debate of should you platform fascist. On one side, I understand people saying there's no point. You're never going to change their minds. It only emboldens them. It only scores points for their side. It only really radicalizes young men who find their points compelling. Fair. But I also know that we live in a country with a very strong First Amendment, and that we do not believe that violence solves things, usually, anyway. That's what we believe. And we also believe that, we live in a democracy where free speech is a thing. And I don't think putting them into the dark corners of the internet and letting this stuff fester underground is going to solve the problem either. Now, to be clear, I don't think that you're going to change anyone in that circle's minds. I mean, you're not going to change this dude here, right? You're not going to change this guy. And we'll get to him in a minute. You're not going to change this guy. You're not going to change this guy over here. Where is he? This guy. You're not going to change their minds. Okay, these people are they are far right fascists. I mean, these are people who, and I'm going to play a longer clip in a second. It's going to shock you when you hear what they're saying. But I do think that anyone who watches this with a I don't know. I don't want to use the word common sense, but anyone who maybe is a moderate and not an extreme fascist is going to watch this and realize like how broken this rhetoric from these white nationalists really is. Because Mehdi, I mean, he obliterates them with facts and with data and with Supreme Court precedent and with all kinds of things. That's just very clear that these people are living in the world of propaganda and rhetoric. And so I think that given the society we live in, given the fact that we're in this version of the universe that we're living right now in America with these laws and this constitution in place, I think that while I don't agree with Jubilee's format, and we'll talk about that in a minute, I do think it's important for people like this to be able to have this debate with someone and watch them get completely obliterated. Now, that's a different discussion from Jubilee and the quote-unquote debate format. A lot of friends of mine, especially academics, absolutely abhor what Jubilee is doing. They think it is rage bait. It's not a real debate. You're just trying to get clicks and one-liners for social media views. There's no depth. You're not actually getting into any kind of nuance or any kind of complexity, right? You're just trying to own the other person. I don't think, in my opinion, even if Jubilee has their internal reasons for why they think that this is a good thing, I don't think it's the flex that they think it is. I don't think it's helping things. These are not real debates. We have to stop calling them debates. These are just like, how soon can you rattle off a piece of rhetoric that traps your opponent where they have no comeback, so you could say, oh, boom, we roasted you, owned you, you stupid lib. Oh, you freaking fascist, right? I mean, that's the kind of vibe. Now, again, Mehdi is a different person entirely. He's brilliant. He's Oxford educated. Like, this guy knows what he's doing. But the format does not help anyone because you only have 15 minutes, and even then, maybe a minute or two with the person you're debating. How can you get into all the nuance in 2 minutes? You can't, right? These are, yeah, exactly. I mean, Evan, to your point, these are WWE cage matches, right? They're not designed for critical thinking. They're designed for us to feel like, it's entertainment. It's junk food on steroids, in my opinion. So I do have real issues with what Jubilee is doing with these formats. I don't think it's helpful. It makes them a lot of money. The team who put this trailer together obviously knows what they were doing. They picked some bombastic clips. They knew that they would go mega viral. They knew it. They absolutely knew that would be a thing. Hey, Deanna, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you for doing this work. It is exhausting with conservative family while living in a very rural, very red area. TNE helps me feel sane. Thank you, Deanna. That's super kind. I grew up in a pretty red area of New Jersey, if you can believe that, in a very conservative space, so I totally understand that, and I really appreciate it. And MJC, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate that. All super chats go to making this work possible. So look, here's what I thought we'd do tonight. Okay, I kind of have my thesis out there. Oh, let me check. Let me check. Where are we here? Let me check the poll again. I have to go back to my own channel to actually see what you guys have said so far. So let me take a look at that. Yeah, I mean it's pretty split, friends. I mean we're a third. Yeah. Okay. So here's what I want to do. Instead of going through the clips, because you can watch the Jubilee video whenever you want. It's totally up there. It already has like 10 million views. One more view isn't going to like make them $1 million more. I'm not super concerned about that. I want to play the response. Oh, actually, wait, before I do that, I'm so sorry. So let's go back briefly. I want to just point this out. This guy's name is Connor. He went on the show. He bragged about being a fascist. And he lost his job, apparently. So the Christian fundraising site, Give, Send, Go, and yes, this is a Christian website, has his campaign trending right now. Connor is trying to raise money because he was fired for his political beliefs. I gotta say, these alpha bros are such soy boys. These men who try to pretend they're all tough and they're all bold for culture are the first ones to cry persecution. So I'm not going to go through all of these comments because they're incredibly racist. So we'll ignore those. But essentially, Connor says that, look, I was deplatformed. I lost my job because of what I said. And he has raised so far $37,000. So look, let's be very real. There are people who share Connor's sentiments. They are emboldened, and this administration, by the way, has also emboldened them. There's no way around it. We've covered on previous episodes and previous lives, the Trump administration has brought in people who literally hold white supremacist views. I mean, they try to get someone in their administration who believe that white men should be privileged in educational spaces because they're just inherently smarter. Stephen Miller is just a man who believes in the white America. So this has all been emboldened. But anyway, I wanted to get to this video here with Tim from The Bulwark. He actually interviewed Mehdi after, and I want to watch it with you. I haven't watched this whole thing. I've only watched a few minutes of it. And it's Mehdi coming on, talking to Tim about kind of his take about what it was like being on the show. Where is the video? Here it is. And I thought we'd just kind of watch it together and go through it and see what you all think, and let Mehdi kind of speak for himself. This is kind of the post version or the post interview after this thing went live. So I think this is a much better use of our time tonight, as opposed to watching clips from the Jubilee video, which again, if you want to watch, you can watch. But there's actually a clip in here that I think that they're going to share that really sums up the nature of this debate. So I'm going to start from the beginning. We'll play it through. We'll relax. I'm glad you're here, friends. Please make sure to give the video a like. We have merch. If you want to support the work that we're doing, pick up a shirt. I would love that. Here we go.
Hey everybody, Tim Miller from The Bulwark here with the man of the moment, Mehdi Hasan, founder of Zeteo News, and he was just in the modern era, the modern gladiatorial ring with 20 crypto-Nazi youth arguing about the future of the country. Mehdi, how you doing? You're alive?
I'm alive, a little bit of PTSD. It's been a few weeks. Obviously, everyone saw it on Sunday. It was taped a few weeks ago. I was kind of waited with bated breath as to what it would look like, what the reaction would be. The reaction has been insane in good ways and bad. But yeah, it's good to speak to you, Tim. I haven't really spoken about this.
By the way, Tim from The Bulwark, I've met Tim several times. Tim, let's connect, bro. Come on, I keep saying we got to work together. You got the politics, I got the Christian nationalist side. Let's have the conversation. If anyone watching this knows Tim from The Bulwark, tell him to give me a call. He has my number, and let's talk.
Yeah, the elephants didn't stampede you. You know, we're alive. I guess for people who didn't watch it, me and JVL did a little breakdown of some of the highlights yesterday. We couldn't wait for you to come on today. It was too good. And so some of our viewers will have already seen it. But for those who haven't, it was a Jubilee. It was pitched as Mehdi. What was it? One progressive versus 20 far-right conservatives. Talk to people about what it was.
Yeah, so that was the pitch. I did this show because I'd seen some of the Jubilee debates with Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens and Jordan Peterson. They haven't had that many progressives or leftists. It's been mainly kind of right-wingers sitting in the middle of this circle surrounded by I would argue good faith debaters from the progressive side. Jordan Peterson had a bunch of 20 atheists who kind of engaged in good faith about arguments.
If you guys haven't seen the Jordan Peterson one, it is so painful. How people think Jordan Peterson is an intellectual baffles me, especially given that debate.
And morality and ethics. And I decided to do it because I thought, number one, let's have a progressive on there. This seems to be a platform with a lot of viewers. I noticed that my kids and nephews and nieces all seem to know what Jubilee was. There's a massive Gen Z and teenage audience for this stuff. So I thought, okay, not the kind of audience that watch political content on The Bulwark or Zateo. Very young audience, worth reaching out to. And then I thought, look, I love to argue, Tim, as you know. I wrote a book about debating. I don't tend to turn down invitations to debate unless it's in bad faith, or I try not to debate fascists and racists.
Whoops.
So I was surprised, to put it mildly, when the quote-unquote Trump supporters I thought I was debating actually just came out and said, no, we're fascists, we're racists.
I got to be honest, too. Look, I don't want to make negative assumptions about things I don't know. But we have to speculate if Jubilee knew this and kind of set him up, right, by bringing on some of the most extreme people that they could find in the MAGA movement. I have to ask that question and wonder if they knew this would be good for their ratings. I don't know, to be fair, but I have to ask the question.
Yeah, and in case people think you're overstating it, we're only going to do one clip from it. People can go watch the whole thing if they want to, but I wanted to do my favorite clip.
This clip is
I thought it
wild.
was telling, and your response was pretty raw, actually. It was kind of un-Mehdi. It was not your Oxford Mehdi. It was like a, what? Is this fucking real response?
It was WTF. It was WTF, Mehdi.
Yeah, so let's watch it.
Buckle up,
my
friends.
name's Connor. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Took a little bit of a doubt there.
Oh, well, I use a pseudonym online,
fair enough,
but
Connor,
fair enough.
How would Connor's America look? What would it look like?
Well, quite frankly, I think we would deport people who shouldn't be here.
No, I didn't ask about deporting. What does the government look like?
What does the government look like?
Yeah.
I would say, quite frankly, it's under a sort of benevolent leader, such as
Where does he
Franco.
come from?
It could be a kind of
Franco.
aristocratic class. Could be someone
Who picks the autocrat?
Frankly, the people. I mean, we could hold a vote on it. Kings
So
were
isn't
paid.
that democracy?
Well, sure. You can have a vote to get to that stage.
And then no more votes afterwards?
Absolutely.
Wow.
100%.
Wow. And if that autocrat kills you and your family, you're fine with that?
Well, I'm not going to be a part of the group that he kills, because that's the whole thing.
How do you know?
Carl Schmitt
Autocrats tend to kill everyone, even their own
Schmitt makes
supporters.
this point very well in his work. It's the friend-enemy distinction, right? You
Carl
liberals,
Schmitt, the Nazi theoretician.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't care.
Are you a
Who
fan of
ca-
the Nazis?
I frankly don't care being called a Nazi at
I
all.
didn't say that. I
Doesn't
didn't
matter
actually
to
say
me.
that. I said, are you a fan of the Nazis?
Well, they persecuted the church a little bit. I'm not a fan of that. But
What about the
you know,
persecution
Look
of
at
the
the guy
Jews?
nodding in the back.
Well,
with
I
the
mean,
hat on.
I certainly don't support anyone's human dignity being assaulted. I'm a Catholic.
But you
So-
don't condemn Nazi persecution of the Jews?
I think that there was a little bit of persecution
We
and
may
stuff like
have
that,
to
which is
rename
bad.
this show
but-
because you're a little bit more than a far-right Republican.
Hey, what can I say?
I think you could say, I'm a fascist.
Yeah, I am. Absolutely.
I'm just checking who's clapping just to get my set of where everyone
Because
is on this.
I'm just checking who's clapping, because I was
Jeez.
checking who was clapping.
Can we just, guys, can we just breathe? I mean, can we just... Can we just all acknowledge how far we've come in the American, conversation, public conversation? Who would have thought that about a decade post-Trump coming on the scene, we'd be hearing from people on major channels bragging about quoting Nazi writers and being a fascist and downplaying the Holocaust, and that getting 10 million views? These people have been emboldened since Trump came on the scene. Why do we think that it wasn't David Duke? Another he was around during the first Trump administration. Another one of these right-wing nationalist types embraced Trump. Why do you think that? Why do you think Trump got dinner with Nick Fuentes a couple of years ago? White nationalism is emboldened under this administration, and we are now living in a time that, I'm not sure about you, but even as a conservative evangelical, I was taught would be it was unfathomable. I mean, look, I'm not saying that my white evangelical upbringing was somehow a progressive, but my God, they weren't going around entertaining this kind of shit. They weren't entertaining a political party that would house literal fascist Nazi sympathizers inside of its ranks and not even be condemned. Wait, did someone just say that Matt Walsh proclaimed himself as a fascist? I have to look that up and fact check that. But yeah, by the way, if you're new to the stream, that guy lost his job and has raised $37,000 on the Christian website Give Send Go. It's just, yeah, thank you, Rocket. It's Richard Spencer. Thank you. Appreciate that. Anyway, wow. Okay. So that's one clip out of an hour and 40-minute long debate that aired on Jubilee. Think about that for a second.
So that
was very early on in the episode. I mean, this is like a 2-hour debate that you're sitting for in this warehouse. And this was very early on. I think he was maybe the 4th or 5th guy to come up to the table. So I was like, okay, at that point, this was a moment where I knew, okay, these are not just your average Trump supporters.
But are they?
Yeah, but are they?
I don't know. What was your
they?
sense of the room? There was sort of a comedic element to I'm just counting 4, 5, 6. There were 20 of them. And it felt like half of them were pretty much explicitly fascist or white nationalist adjacent to me. I don't know. What about you?
Without a shadow of a doubt, the majority were. There's a moment in the recording, and a lot of these clips have gone viral in recent days. That's how Jubilee works. One clip that hasn't gone viral is probably the most fascinating part. There was an undocumented immigrant.
Yes.
There was a guy who was a dreamer.
This clip is crazy.
Covered in tattoos, which is a brave move these days, given ISIS sending people to El Salvador, as you and I know, Tim, based on tattoos.
Yep.
And he came to be this far-right conservative. He volunteered to self-identify as a far-right conservative, but then sat across the table from me and talked about how he didn't agree with the racists in the room and that his parents came and they came illegally, but they did what they had to do for their family. It was very sad. It was very touching, actually.
Yep.
But it was interesting that kind of he stood out. And I looked around the room and I was like, you're a brave guy, because I'm sure the majority of the room want to call ICE on you right now. So yes, the majority of them were white nationalists, Christian nationalists, fascist adjacent. What was interesting about it is that guy there who you just played the clip of, he hesitates to say his name and then says Connor. And I say, why are you hesitating on your own name? Oh, because I have a pseudonym online. I'm already thinking, okay, so this guy he's not an ordinary member of the public. He's some kind of influencer, blogger, activist. And then it turns out he's some guy called Pines App. I discovered in the last 48 hours. And, he's well-known anti-Semite, well-known friend of Nick Fuentes, well-known groiper. Not sure how he got past the quote-unquote vetting.
So let's just pause for a second. I mean, let me do this. He's absolutely right. I found his Instagram a couple days ago. Let's see. I'm going to pull it up here for a second. We're not going to get too in the weeds here, but I just want to show you guys that he does have an Instagram. He has, get ready to see how many followers this dude has, okay? He has 73,000 followers on Instagram, not on some underground 4chan site, not on Rumble, not even on X, on Instagram. Okay, and this guy posts stuff that is just like really cryptic. It's not good. It's not good stuff, okay? And he's definitely a Christian. I mean, orthodoxy, it's all over. Not good at all. So it's wild again, like that we're here. Someone made a point in the chat. I'm gonna just push back gently in good faith, my friend, because you can't respond to me as I'm talking to you. But someone said that where was it? And I'm not even pushing back. I'm just I'm gonna clarify. Their understanding was that Jubilee didn't tell Mehdi they were openly fascists. He thought that they were MAGA people. I think what we have to just realize is that inside the MAGA tradition, inside the MAGA movement, fascism is welcomed. Fascism is tolerated. Now, Charlie Kirk, right, for sake of saving face, if he was asked point blank, hey, do you denounce the guy who was quoting, the Nazi? He might say, yeah, no, of course I do. Of course, that's bad. But on policy, this guy Connor and Charlie are probably going to agree on a lot of things around borders and around Trump's reckless deportations, many times of legal immigrants or of actual American citizens. So we have to just acknowledge that. Like, again, I know for a fact that Nick Fuentes is banned from Turning Point America Fest and Turning Point USA, but Nick Fuentes has cheered on Charlie for becoming more and more of a white supremacist or a white nationalist. These guys are all swimming in the same water. A couple might be further downstream, but it leads to the same place. And I just think we have to start telling the truth. I think for too long, we've been stuck in this, oh, well, both sides, left, right. We're not dealing with your typical left-right divide that we've seen historically over the past couple of decades. We are really dealing with an openly fascist movement that will openly allow fascism and fascist ideals to flourish. If you want a really good understanding, by the way, of fascism, the book How Fascism Works by Jason Stanley is a great read on this. And when you read that book and see how the Trump administration has moved in the first and now this current time in power, the writing is on the freaking walls, guys. It's on the freaking walls.
Yet, interestingly, in the last 24 hours, I believe he's gone on some podcast and said that he's lost his job since going on YouTube and telling millions of people he's proud to be a fascist. Sense of the room was one self-professed fascist, a bunch of other fascist sympathizers, fascist adjacent, white nationalists. Yet they weren't. I know it's easy to go, oh, well, all Trump supporters are Nazis, fascists, which isn't true, obviously.
Right.
They do obviously have sympathies with the far right. That's why they vote for Trump.
What was
interesting about these people is they were clearly more than just average members of these were people committed to the cause. It became very clear to me, Tim, very early on. I went with 4 claims about crime, about the Constitution, about immigration, and about Gaza. They didn't give a fuck about 3 of them.
Agreed.
They only cared about the immigration.
That's
piece.
right.
That is what they were
That's
there
right.
for.
No, that's 100% true. That's 100% true. They wanted to talk about immigration. They wanted brown people out of their country. I mean, this should have been called one Oxford-trained debater who's also a progressive, or I'm not sure if he would identify as that, but you get my point. Versus 20 white nationalists. That's what this was.
I kind of want to explore that a little more. I'm curious though, because I did watch the part of the video with the undocumented guy, and I wanted a little postscript of that. Did it feel like maybe this was an eye-opening moment for him to realize that he was in league with this group?
Yeah.
I don't.
It felt a bit. I got a sense that sitting across the table from him. I didn't talk to any of them afterwards. I got the hell out of Dodge.
Good for him.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, you didn't have. You didn't have a glass of tea with the.
I didn't
fascists?
know. But to quote Donald Trump on Ghislaine Maxwell, I wish him well.
Wish him well. Yeah. Same. Your point about the immigration thing. Obviously, that is the animating issue of the group.
Yep.
But to me, the thing why this was, I hope, eye-opening to people, because I think that there is like this notion of it still persists somehow, even if Donald Trump has won twice. Like, there's these like kind of extreme corners or whatever, and they're not that representative, but like they're overrepresented online, and it's like, well, I don't know about that.
Yep.
I think that like that immigration is extremely animating if you go to just a Turning Point USA event or a Charlie Kirk event, like that is an animating issue.
That's right.
It matters. After the clip I shared yesterday, a friend of mine texted and said that there's a son or nephew like also cited Carl Schmitt recently. Like this stuff gets into the ether. These guys who are all debating you are now posting online. So I'm seeing their accounts. They have huge followings.
Yes,
they're followed by elected officials, prominent Republicans.
Yes.
Right, and it's not like
I think this guy I think is followed. The guy we just saw a clip of who claims to have lost his job, Connor the fascist. I believe he's followed by one of the candidates for Texas AG.
Oh, I believe that.
Yeah.
I believe that completely. And I really want to hammer this point home with all of you. I know those of you who watch this show or who are familiar with me and how I operate, I always like to cite my sources as often as I can, right? It's important to me so you know that I'm not giving you propaganda, that I'm at least giving you sources for why I think the way that I think, whether it's experiential sources, like when I go to Turning Point USA events, which me and Tim have met at before, or when it's actual data. Let me pull something up here. This will tell you that the immigration issue really is that big of a deal, especially for Christian nationalists. If you're just joining, by the way, welcome in. Do me a favor, give this stream a like. That'd be so helpful. It helps get this out to more people. Okay, where is... Let me just find this really quick. Give me 1 second, friends. You know how I am. I'm always doing things on the fly here. So let me just find this. Not in this one. Where is it? PRI Christian Nationalism. I know this because I just picked it up a minute ago. I was going through something and I was like, oh, you know what? This will be good to pull later on. So let me try it again. No, that's not the source. Where's the study? I like giving you guys the actual data. Oh, thanks for the likes. Give me a sec. I think I found it. Okay, here it is. Yeah. Okay, so this is PRRI, friends, okay? PRRI is one of the most respected groups out there when it comes to tracking and understanding and breaking down what Christian nationalism is, how people in America, how the percentage of people in America who hold those views, the issue priorities of Christian nationalists. Overall, those who support Christian nationalist ideas are significantly more likely than other Americans to say that two issues are non-negotiable when considering support for a candidate: access to guns and immigration. Half of Christian nationalism adherents say they would only vote for a candidate who shares their position on access to guns. And then half of adherents say they would only vote for a candidate who shares their views on immigration. Okay? Friends, this was the reason they voted for Trump. Whenever you see a video of an immigrant being beat up by ICE or being torn out of their car, or you hear the stories about the immigrant abuses that are happening in these concentration camps that we're erecting in the U.S., you can thank Christian nationalism for it. Okay? It was one of two issues that they were emphatically clear on. We absolutely must vote for someone who is in line on this issue. And Trump was emphatically clear, right, during his candidacy, or during his, the candidacy, what he would do. Immigrants are poisoning the blood of society. We got to get them out, etc. So when Tim talks about this stuff, he's absolutely correct. And this also applies to Christian nationalists. And by the way, to be clear, we know that Christian nationalism is most concentrated in white evangelical spaces. About 2/3 of white evangelicals hold to Christian nationalist ideals in some way, shape, or form. So this is why, if you follow my personal accounts, Tim Whitaker Speaks, or my Substack at Tim Whitaker Speaks, or Instagram, or Threads, and you see me always saying things like, thank white evangelicals, this is because of white evangelicals, that's why I say that. Because white evangelicals are Trump's most loyal base. Of course, there's white Catholics that support him. You had other minority groups that support him to a degree, Hispanics, etc., for sure. But as far as the group that most supports him, no matter what, and where Christian nationalism is most concentrated, it is white evangelicalism. It is. That is the core of this thing. So yeah, anyway, I had to bring that up while we're watching this. Like, white Christian nationalism is the reason that masked up ICE agents are ripping families apart, are not identifying themselves, are arresting in some cases citizens. That's why.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess my point is, I don't know. Did you come away? And obviously, there's the experience of being in the room, but like, just about the broader project, did you come away a little bit more alarmed about like the degree to which Stephen Millerism, if you will, has really kind of infected like a pretty significant portion of the young
huge.
right?
It's interesting you mentioned Stephen Millerism, because this was filmed in LA, and I remind people that this was not filmed in the Deep South. This was filmed in LA. No, a little bit alarmed is an understatement. I came away pretty stunned, and it takes a lot to make me speechless, Tim.
Yeah.
Many people who know me know it takes a lot for me not to have anything to say. And I remember just leaving there with a producer of mine and with the security guard who came with me, who's also a friend of mine, who provided security. And he turned to me and he said, that was not a TV recording. That felt more like a low-key KKK rally.
No, for sure.
And I think this is the thing now. This is the masks off, hoods on moment that we're living through right now, where a lot of these people thought this stuff 10 years, 15 years ago, but they wouldn't have had the guts to come on YouTube and say it. They wouldn't have the guts to, this guy's lost his job and he's surprised by it, but many of the rest of them are not going to lose their jobs, right? Okay, Pines
and he's
out,
going to do fine. He's going to raise money.
He's going to do fine.
I just want to point out, look, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but what did I just tell you all a few minutes ago? Right, we have seen a dramatic shift where this stuff is now platformed on YouTube. And I gotta say, it feels good that I'm saying things that Mehdi Hasan is saying, because that guy is brilliant. So this former homeschooler is gonna take the win, all right? Give me the win. Friends, are you hanging in there? You doing okay? I figured this is a much better you know, kind of unpacking of what happened on Jubilee than actually watching the video. Oh, great. We got one. Hello. Hi, Micah. This channel is clearly not Christian anyway. Okay. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate your thoughts. Oh, boy. There's always one. Let's keep going.
The rest of them who said crazy shit, you know, there was a white genocide guy. There was a great replacement guy. It was all the hits.
Yeah,
all the far right hits. And, you know, you and I follow this stuff closely so we can identify it from far up. Like for me, the minute he said, I'm being replaced, I understood. All right, replaced. Tick. Okay. These are not ordinary people just expressing legitimate concern about the wages brought down by migrant labor from South America. These are people who are ideologically committed, as you say, to Stephen Millerism, to Carl Schmitt, to Great Replacement, to General Franco. I mean, I have debated and talked with a lot of far right freaks over the years, but that's the first time I've had it in the live in the field example of we need a General Franco for the United States.
Yeah, well, this is why I get to play the former conservative role here, Mehdi. One of the big splits between William F. Buckley and oh, shit. Now I'm blanking on the guy's name. His kid ended up running a media watchdog group. It'll come to me. Was over Franco. Like it was back then, the original National Review days. There was like a split over a pro-Franco faction and kind of like a soft Franco faction. So it doesn't come from nowhere. I want to say I've been watching some of their follow-ups, which I think is as alarming as the actual exchange. I'm sure you've seen some of the stuff online. You see this one, a guy who's at Chaotic Hermes. He posted a picture of himself, and he said, "I didn't go up during Jubilee because Hasan smelled like shit."
Wow.
You see that one?
Several
other guys have.
I can't reveal what happened in terms of the taping and editing, but that's fundamentally untrue. What he just said there, not just the insult, but what he said about what happened at the filming.
Got it.
He was a super racist dude.
Wow.
So there was racist shit that didn't make the cut.
I can't comment on the.
Oh yeah, you can't.
You'd have to ask Jubilee.
Yeah, well, Jubilee. Okay, sorry, I don't want to get into trouble there. You know, there's enough racist shit on what made the cut that doesn't really matter, I guess, is one question.
I mean, and look, I've been torn on this stuff. Look, I'm on the left, Tim. Left has a very strong no platforming of fascist principle. I operated in the UK. I've operated in the US. There are many interesting people I've not had on Zeteo who I could easily have and get lots of clicks from simply because I just don't want to platform a far-right fascist. So for me, it was a very eye-opening moment where I kind of said, I don't want to debate you, Connor, because you're a fascist. You've just told me you're a fascist. We've got to wrap this up now. But what was interesting is, obviously, on the left, there's been a lot of criticism. If you go on Blue Sky, for example, a lot of liberals upset with me for participating. And I get it. Look, I'm torn on this. There is a school of thought that says
there are people upset at you for participating.
Yeah, I think there's a legit. I think there are two views, right, Tim? There is one school of thought on the liberal left which says you cannot platform these people because no matter how much you beat them up, no matter how much you mock them or humiliate them or make fools of them, they make content out of this. They move the Overton window. They launder their far-right views in front of a mainstream audience, right? I believe that is a legitimate argument, something I sympathize with myself. On the other hand, the counter-argument is these people are out there. They exist. Jubilee is a massive platform. Whether I take part in it or not, it's getting tens of millions of views. Maybe it's time to show up and mock these people and point out what freaks they are. So I get both sides of the argument. I do believe they are two legitimate views on that debate. And I'm torn on it because you said, look at their accounts right now. The guy with the baseball cap who told me to get out, who pretended he was an economist, like he's loving this moment. You go look at his social feed. His friends are like, you owned Mehdi, you won that thing. And the algorithm allows you, as you and I both know, to live in your own little bubble and be reinforced in your own wrongness.
Yeah, I mean, he's right, and I appreciate how aware he is. I mean, he's a progressive, like you said, he's on the left. He understands that people are going to give him shit over this. Yeah, I'm not sure if I told you guys the time when I first started the podcast for TNE, I accidentally interviewed a fascist. I never aired it because I got sick to my stomach after he told me that he doesn't believe in the Holocaust. That's true. But, yeah, I can tell you the story if you want. I'll tell you the full story later on if you're that interested. But I did that by accident. I was like, after the recording, I said, that felt so icky. I don't think there's any point in airing that, so I didn't. But no, I mean, he's right here, I think. These far-right neo-Nazis have created these bubbles where, like, and I've seen some of them, where they're like, yeah, you own this guy. And like, guys, how self-deluded are you? You got I mean, they get destroyed. Mehdi destroys them. he points out the logical fallacies, points out the cognitive dissonance, points out the hatred. And I know he didn't do it to convince their crew of how dumb they are. He probably did it to hopefully expose, the nature of what is going on in the MAGA world, to like maybe more moderate or even more progressive folks. But I go back and forth, between is it a good idea or not. And I mean, yeah, Mars, if you're just joining the stream, we talked about Jubilee earlier and how I'm not a fan of this format at all. I just think that it is wildly unhelpful. It doesn't help the nuance of debate or the depth of it doesn't give time needed to unpack some of these ideas, especially when you bring on Nazis. I mean, the one guy literally like downplayed the Holocaust in front of Mehdi. Another guy told him to get the hell out. These are not people that are good faith, right? They're not looking to have a real earnest dialogue on the realities of the world, the complicated nature of human history and human nature, and what do we do in America with immigration in a way that respects the human dignity of people, but maybe protects the country. Like that's not what we're here to do, right? This was like, as someone said earlier, a WWE cage match, and we're all clicking because we just can't believe it. We're just so shocked that someone would put this out there.
And it is wild. Like, I mean, some of these people, like the guy you're referencing, you had this fight over immigration, and his, like, the key argument he had was that wages dropped, like, 0.5% for Americans if you look at the certain studies. And, like, there are posts I've seen of, like, him being like, I owned Mehdi over this with 11,000 likes. So I guess I do understand that. I guess my question is, I don't know that the
By the way,
answer is...
just context for this clip really quick. This one dude is arguing with Mehdi on Jubilee about how immigration lowers wages, and the study he cites says that it lowered wages by 0.5%. And Mehdi's like, even if your study is correct, which he kind of fights him on, 0.5% is negligible. And that guy and his crew on wherever he does social media think that they owned Mehdi with that clip or with that stat. Like, how do you reason with that? How do you reason with that kind of stupidity where you think you own someone because you pointed out a 0.5% wage decrease? That is literally negligible. It's ridiculous.
At foment. And I guess I do think this is a legitimate question. I saw JVL and I were talking about yesterday. I'm wondering what your thought is. I mean, like, what is a realistic effort for de-radicalizing? Like, it probably isn't you, question. To be honest, right? Like a brown immigrant, like debating them in Oxford style.
Brown Muslim immigrant journalist. I tick all the boxes.
Yeah, probably not going to be the person that wins them
probably
over.
Probably an atheist too, then.
I don't know. And like, as far like probably the guy that like is citing Carl Schmitt is not going to be de-radicalized, right?
Right.
But the people consuming this. Right, like this is the thing that I worry about, and I do think it's very different. Like I just look back to being a young Republican, age 17, who would sometimes do contrarian stuff that was outlandish or whatever to get attention.
Yeah,
I'm guilty. I did it, but like, it would have been hard for me even to find ideas like this. Right, like you're literally like, I'm going to go through the library and start looking for Nazi, philosophers. Like it would have been hard to find people who are like, yeah, America should actually be a Catholic autocracy. Right? Like that just wasn't in the dialogue.
Exactly,
right?
Exactly.
And so that stuff is a way of seeping in. And I mean, I feel like engaging with it and trying to demonstrate its absurdity is as good of an idea as any, but I don't know. Maybe that is wrong. I'm genuinely perplexed by the challenge.
No, I agree with you. It's really difficult. I've tried to have this. Look, take election denial, Tim, right? I was one of these people who said I will not have election denials on my show at MSNBC since I joined Zateo. Like, that was a principle. But then 2024 came along, and you kind of have to drop that a bit because, like, that's the entire Republican party. Oh, you're not going to be able to interview a Republican.
Right.
So, like, the purity tests don't work in an age where things are so fluid. The extremes. Look, I'm not a guy who tends to quote neoconservatives like Max Boot. But Max Boot, I think, wrote a piece for the Washington Post a while back, and he had a phrase that stuck with me. He said there was a time when the Republican Party was a mainstream Republican Party with a white nationalist fringe. It is now a white nationalist party with a Republican fringe.
Ooh.
I think that's a good description of where we are.
Whoa, that's great. No, wow, that's a great quote. And he's totally right. He's totally right. Really quick, Sarah from Tofu, thank you for the super chat. I like debate and feel like it has value in general. I agree. However, Jubilee and YouTube just present like the fast food of debate. It's cut for reaction and engagement, not interested in truth or insight. Yeah, great point. But no, what Max, I think Max Boot is his name, said is so on the money. And one way to demonstrate this too is to consider the RNC, Republican National Convention. Look at who they had on the stage this last time around. Charlie Kirk. Mitt Romney. The last presidential candidate from Republicans was Mitt Romney. Think about that for a second. Mitt Romney is seen as a rhino. Remember Paul Ryan? That guy's gone too. Those people are seen as the fringe, and your Charlie Kirks and your Tucker Carlsons and your Marjorie Taylor Greens and your Matt Gaetz, they are the people on the inside now. They are the people who make up the bulk of the party. Guys, I go, along with Tim from the Bulwark, to Turning Point America Fest every single year. I've been 3 years in a row. I've already got I'm booking my tickets this week to go back in December. They run the Republican Party. They absolutely do. And they are extreme. Charlie Kirk says the Great Replacement Theory is real. I've seen him say it on the air on the floor of America Fest. It's the same stuff that these white nationalists were saying in this debate. This is such a good point. What was fringe is now the main or the core, and what used to be the core is now the fringe. Absolutely.
At some point you have to acknowledge that, and then you have to decide what are you going to do about that.
Yeah, exactly.
We have a two-party system. You simply cannot exclude one party from all airways social media debates. That's impossible. So yes, as much as I want to kind of contain these people, I do think two things that jump out to me in terms of de-radicalization. One is we need political mainstream parties that can offer people actual vision, hope, substance, right? Technocrats running the Democratic Party or the Republican Party is not going to work. Yep. Donald Trump succeeded because whatever you think of the man, he gave people some kind of vision. It's a shitty, fascistic, reactionary, dishonest vision, but it is a vision.
Yep.
And Democratic Party leaders simply cannot match that. And that's just a fact of where we are right now.
Right.
And that's one point. The other point, I think, is I do think a lot of this leads back to social media. I do think Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and the rest of these guys have a lot to answer for, right? We know that Zuckerberg and others twiddle with the algorithm to allow these people to get away with this shit. We know it during COVID. We know it before COVID. We know it election times. And again, that's not about censorship or Twitter files. It's about amplifying the worst possible people. It's about going on YouTube, where you and I are talking right now, and having an algorithm that, multiple studies have shown, a kid starts watching one video and then goes down a far-right rabbit hole. Yeah. That is not organic. That is not something that has to happen. And I do think that is something that should have been regulated or dealt with by the government a long time ago. And I think big tech has a lot to answer for.
Breaking it up at some level. I'm just trying to think around there. There's not a lot of great... I'm trying to think of a great example of de-radicalization efforts. You know what I mean? I don't know. I love this example, but in the Muslim world, radical Islam, it's hard to think of a really good example. And I guess post-war Germany, there was, but we need to have a Holocaust before these people get de-radicalized.
Exactly.
That to me is the frustrating part. Is it's engagement with it. You do wonder if it boomerangs at some level.
This is the riddle I think a lot of us are trying to solve. It's a question I ask a lot of my podcast guests, what do you do with people on this planet that hold these radical views, extreme views? And not, by the way, not extreme in the sense of I don't even know what would be seen as extreme, like healthcare for all in America. Is that extreme for some people? I don't know. We're not talking about things that would promote human flourishing for all of our neighbors, right? We're talking about things that are reminiscent of Nazi Germany. Things that brought on the Holocaust. Things that want to kill other people because of the color of their skin. It's just wild. And I don't have an answer either, right? On a personal level, I believe that everyone can repent and change. I think that on a one-to-one level, that's one thing. On a political level, you don't want to give Nazis more power. You don't want to give fascists more power. You don't want to give Christian fascists more power because they don't believe in good faith dialogue. This was my critique when Cenk went to America Fest to talk to Charlie Kirk, right? Is that I don't care that Cenk wants to talk to Charlie. I want to talk to Charlie, but he didn't push back on any of his bullshit. He tried to play footsies with them. And I'm like, Cenk, you don't understand. Charlie does not want to play footsies with you. This man wants to chop your feet off. That was my critique of Newsom having Charlie on his show. Newsom, if you're going to have Charlie on your show, Fight back against the freaking propaganda. Don't try and find the common ground. Why? Not because I don't want to find common ground. I love finding common ground. I'm sure many of you want to find common ground. I'm sure many of you watching this right now want to work together with your neighbor for the common good, okay? Christian fascists do not want to do that. This is the drum I've been beating for years, and many others have also been saying, because like a lot of us watching this stream probably, we grew up in white evangelical fundamentalism, and we know that there's a militancy to this, right? We grew up singing, I'm in the Lord's army. We grew up being taught that we're in a battle of good versus evil, that we have to stop the evil Marxists and Democrats who hate America and hate God. That's what we've been taught. So when you believe that, and you believe that everyone who's not like you is your enemy, you don't want to make peace with your enemy. You want to conquer your enemy. And so I understand I understand when you're a good faith person, you walk in kind of naive, especially if you don't understand Christian nationalism, which I don't think Cenk understands. And I've talked to him about this on his own show, or Newsom understands, right? But they are not dealing with people who are pro-democracy, pro-pluralism, pro-religious freedom for all. That's not who you're dealing with. And by the way, the data bears that out. You are dealing with people who want to take over. And I don't know what you do with that, because I don't believe in violence. I don't believe in killing people. I don't want to, do an eye for an eye take. As a Christ follower, there's a call to love my enemy. At the same time, I absolutely cannot let these people marginalize my neighbor. We have to stop ICE from kidnapping our immigrant neighbor and destroying families, right? We can't let the propaganda of Christian fascism go unchecked and go unchallenged. So I sympathize strongly with Tim and Mehdi here, that we are trying to figure out what to do in a way that doesn't violate our own integrity or our own values of the humanity in all of humans, right? We don't want to dehumanize. Part of why we don't like Christian fascism is because it's built on dehumanization. When you call someone a demon, what you're saying is that they're not redeemable, because demons are not redeemable by definition, right? They are irredeemable beings. They can only be demonic. I don't want to call the Trump supporting neighbor down the street a demon, because I want to hope that they're redeemable. And at the same time, the people at the top of this really do want to keep America white. So I wrestle with this big time. I'm sure a lot of you do as well.
That's a worry. The other problem is, of course, as long as social media is out there, the thing about let's take Nazi Germany, right? You lose a war, you have an occupying army, and then you change the curriculum, you change the people in charge of government, etc., etc. What they didn't have in post-war Germany was TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, right? Yeah. Right now we have the constant, non-stop, relentless attack on our attention and on our brains. And therefore, it's like when people say, well, you got to go on Fox to have the debate. And I'm like, all right, Bernie goes on Fox or Buttigieg goes on Fox. But then you have like 12 hours of Fox coverage undermining what was just done,
exactly.
In the de-radicalizing. I think it's the same problem, right? You can do all you want in the public space, in education, in schools, in Congress. But what do you do about the nonstop, the people who are online 24/7 being served up this shit? 24/7. That is what
control
you have
of information, and that really is. And it's not modern, but that really would be the more of a comparison. I mean, Hitler took control of the information ecosystem in Germany in the schools, and if you look at a lot of if you look at Assad, Syria, right? Like there wasn't a lot of opportunity to hear conflicting information if you're a young person. So I don't know.
It's not even about controlling it, again, because the people say, oh, you're trying to censor us. It's not about that. It's about the fact that we have a social media infrastructure right now which amplifies this stuff. Right. That's the bigger issue. Right. And that's why I'm getting criticized, because people are saying, well, you went on Jubilee, and Jubilee's entire business model is to do this for clicks. And I get that, but it's much broader than Jubilee, right? This is about
I don't know. I think it's important. I think it's important for people to see this stuff. I don't know that your interview is the thing that's going to de-radicalize.
No, I agree with it in terms of seeing it.
Parents should be eyes wide open, right? I mean,
yes.
Parents, you and I aren't going to agree on every element probably of the campus protests around Gaza. Like, if parents were upset about some of the extreme elements of that, like, everybody should be freaking aware of the extreme elements that are happening all across the country in these little MAGA groups, because the Groypers are not just 8 dudes anymore with sunglasses.
Right.
No, and I think, look, as you mentioned campus presidents, let's just take a quick look at the Palestine issue. I talked about Gaza on that show, right?
Yes,
that was the one area where people didn't really want to come up to the table. They don't want to debate me because they don't agree with Trump's support for Israel.
True.
And they don't
some
agree
of them
with
hate
Trump's support.
Jews.
Yes.
Well, that's what I'm coming to. They don't agree with Trump's support for Israel, not because they're pro-Palestinian
That's
or pro-international
right.
law. It's because
That's-
they're anti-Semites.
That's completely...
I can't say what some of the comments were made off camera, but blatant anti-Semitism was expressed. So
look, this is a very key point. When Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson starts talking about Palestine, by the way, free Palestine, and on a pragmatic level, raise all the voices. But we don't take Candace Owens as someone who has suddenly converted, right, to a more liberal position. These are people who push anti-Semitism consistently. Okay, there's a big difference between saying Zionism is killing Palestinians, the Israeli government is killing Palestinians, versus saying, Jews control the media. There's a big difference between those two things, okay? And the Nick Fuenteses of the world, who are actually against Trump for the genocide of the Palestinians, are against him because they hate Jewish people. They think that Jews are controlling the banks and controlling the world and are controlling the media. Big delta between, okay, those two things. A lot of folks that I talk to, especially in left-wing spaces who are very much pro-Palestine, are very clear that we also believe that Jewish people have a right to exist and live in freedom and free of persecution. Obviously, I do not want another Holocaust to ever happen again to my Jewish neighbor. And also, I don't want that happening to my Palestinian neighbor, okay? Again, big delta, friends. So just keep... I tell you that as a warning, because Candace Owens in particular is really beating the... hey, the Palestine issue is a big deal. She's right. She is. And that's good. But her perspective, her road for getting there and her motivation for why is a little bit different than the motivation I have and many of you have, or Mehdi has, or Tim from the Bulwark has. Keep that in mind. You hanging in there? Good. We're almost done.
this idea, and you see the woman, I think her name now, I've discovered her name is Sarah something or another, the blonde woman who also appeared in Sam Cedar's show.
Yep.
She made it very clear Trump is being controlled by one religious group. And I was like, really? Do you want to tell us which group that is?
The Methodists? Is it the Methodists?
So to take your point even one point further, it's not just, parents are worried about what's happening on campuses, they should be worried about social media. How about all of us who claim to be worried about anti-Semitism? We should be worried about old-fashioned anti-Semitism. While we obsess over is anti-Zionism, anti-Semitism, was the placard on campus mean to Jewish people or just Israelis? How about looking at the OG anti-Semitism, the right-wing, hey, the Holocaust never happened, hey, Jews are controlling all of us, and all of that bullshit. That is that we should be eyes wide open about.
100%.
And I think that is one place where I will defend the whole Jubilee thing and my participation, 100%, which is there has been far too much denialism, as you said at the start of this conversation, about how big a group this is. Whether it's 20%, 30%, 50%, it's a big chunk, and it is growing online.
Yeah. I thought there were some really bad placards at the protests, but even still, this group and the way to which they're organizing, the way to which they're organizing, is bad. Okay, I want to give you one more swing at the how this intersects with the Israel issue, because there's another thing that's been viral since you did the Jubilee thing, and I think that they relate in a way that I just want to explain. There are these two guys called the Nelk Boys, the Canadian actually. They're extremely stupid. I just want to be honest about this. Like some of the people you debated. Okay, I mean, whatever. They had high SAT scores. Let's just put it that way, right? Like they at least are reading the books that they're citing. At least some of them. There were maybe some so-so ones too. The Nelk Boys are not that. They literally came up as like modern day shock jocks. They interviewed, boxers and stuff, and they do fart jokes. Pranks, like that's them. Okay, and then they did an interview yesterday with Bibi Netanyahu, and they get totally co-opted by Bibi, and Bibi just snows them. And you can kind of see it in their face. Like they don't know. They even say they don't know. Oh, my
God. What?
And I thought that was interesting because when I watched that, it reminded me of your Jubilee. And I think it can be like telling for us as we try to figure out how to maybe disaggregate these groups a little bit and de-radicalize some people, is that in the Jubilee, there were some pretty smart fascists. And then there were some people that felt like they were getting drug along. You know, and anyway, I felt like that dynamic was pretty similar to the BB and Nelk Boys dynamic. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that or on the Nelk Boys thing overall, but you can feel free.
I think you're right about the fact that the Nelk Boys are not ideologues, right? They're not quoting Carl Schmitt for sure. What they are, though, is they are on the right. They're proudly on the right. They endorse Trump. They had Trump on the show well before Netanyahu. And we've seen that in a lot of this space. We've seen it with the Joe Rogans and the Theo Vons and some of these people. And I think you're right. I think the co-opting is quite interesting. I've been very depressed. People are like, the podcast election. I think the big downside, as someone who's made my own name doing tough interviews, what's bothered me most is the podcast space has allowed politicians of all stripes, but especially on the right, to go into safe spaces and not have to ask any kind of difficult questions. Not just difficult questions, but even talk to people who know what the fuck's going on, right? Have any
not even challenge them, like blatantly lie. Like, you know, he's like, Iran was about to bomb Germany and America. And the guys were like, really?
Tell me more. Tell me more.
I haven't, guys, I don't know anything about this Nelk. I don't even know who the Nelk Boys are. I'll look into that for another time.
And I think we've seen that a lot. We saw that with Theo Von, who I think is good natured. I think he's got good intentions on Gaza. He said a lot of good stuff on Palestine, but then he sits down with a Trump or a JD Vance or a Jared Kushner, and clearly that he's not equipped for that conversation.
Right. I agree.
And I think the problem with all of these people is to go back to the point. It is the attention economy. They do have a lot of supporters and followers, and it is, again, this is going to sound cliched and patronizing, but it is the dumbing down of America. To go back to your point, it is kind of stupid rules. It is an episode of Idiocracy. And it is a very American phenomenon. It is global as well, but it's very American. And I think the reaction I've had from foreigners watching Jubilee, who've been texting me, to Americans watching Jubilee, has been really interesting. The foreigners are all like, that can't be real. Those can't be Americans. What are you doing there? Get the hell out of that country. And it is, I think we've got to talk about...
What do you say to them when they say that? Are you kind of like, maybe you're right?
I say I'm here until Stephen Miller and Donald Trump come with the denaturalization police. I mean, by the way, the real arc of that episode, that Jubilee episode, is what, at least 5 of the 20 of them told me to get out at some shape or point, that I shouldn't be living there. And it's kind of like, well, this is useful, because at least we don't have to pretend.
You're stealing jobs from good, honest white Americans like the Nelk Boys. Who could be doing these interviews with Bibi Netanyahu.
But it really, that is really revealing, because at least it just kills the lie that this is about illegal immigration. No, it's not. Exactly. At least we can be honest on Jubilee and have the people say, really, it's to do with the fact that I will never be American for that.
Right.
All right. One last thing, because I think,
last thing. Well,
again, as I mentioned, I think we disagree on some of the specifics of this, but just from a political strategy standpoint, your point about how they didn't want to fight with you on Gaza, and I don't know if you've seen, but the Nelk Boys have gotten huge backlash from their audience over not being harder on Netanyahu. I do wonder if the Gaza is a little bit of a wedge that I don't know, could be used
I think it could
in a
be.
way.
I think it could be.
To, I don't know, not via anti-Semitic conspiracies, but just via humanitarian concerns. I think some of obviously the Carl Schmitt guy, no. Some of these other guys don't want to self-ID as bad people, I don't think. And maybe it can be used as a wedge. I don't know. Is that Pollyanna? What do you think?
It's a great question, and there was that moment where I'm up against this Iranian American Trump supporter who's dressed like.
Is that the guy with the hat and the mustache? We got to put him on screen now for people who haven't seen him. This guy has the look.
I felt bad for this dude.
I mean, can I give props to myself for keeping a straight face throughout all of that? But there's a moment where he defends the killing of Palestinian kids by Israeli snipers. Well, maybe they weren't so innocent. Maybe they were Hamas. Maybe they were being brainwashed. And I look around the room. And I say, do you guys agree with that? Shooting kids in the head? And they're like, no. And I said, look, even the white supremacists think you've gone too far, my friend. So there's that weird moment where, as you say, they don't want to be seen as like, we're not child killers. We just want to protect our borders. We just want the 14 words. But we don't want to kill foreign children. Look, maybe, and look, I'm having this discussion all the time, Tim, as you can imagine, the circles I move in, on the left, in Muslim and Arab American circles, I get this all the time. Oh, you should be allying with Candace Owens. What about Tucker? Why haven't you had Tucker Carlson on your show? Isn't Marjorie Taylor Greene great? Wow. And I'm saying, no. These people
Mehdi.
Don't give a shit about Palestinians. Their animus towards Israel is driven by anti-Semitism,
by
isolationism.
Come on, guys, I'm just saying. What did I say? This is a blind watch, okay? I have not watched this video. I haven't watched it. But what did I just tell you? Did I not just warn you about Candace Owens and Tucker? They're not good faith actors. Thank you, Mehdi. I totally agree.
what our opposition to Israel is driven by or should be driven by. And look, I have so many Muslim friends who tell me like Tucker Carlson's their new hero.
Oh,
and I have to remind them, Tucker Carlson turned up at the Turning Points USA conference the other day and said, I want my country back. I don't want my city smelling like weed and halal, is what he said. And I was like, that's who Tucker Carlson is. He's not a friend of Muslims. He just happens to be on this anti-Israel move at the moment, which, of course, look, I enjoyed the Ted Cruz takedown as much as anyone else. But the point is, Tucker Carlson, I've as someone on the left, I've never adopted the enemy of my enemy is my friend philosophy that Ronald Reagan and co-adopted. That's never been my position. Is Gaza a wedge issue? I think it might be, but not in a good way, Tim. I think
agree.
It's probably in a bad way.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I mean, guys, spot on. Look, I don't know how to say this to people who might disagree with me, but I am going to be just emphatic here. We are watching in real time the ongoing genocide of Palestinian people. Children are starving to death because the Israeli government is choking the food supply and killing Palestinians who are trying to get food or trying to get medical help. Like, children are literally being sniped by Israeli snipers. There is no excuse. There is no justification for what's happening in Gaza. Okay? Obviously, we all condemn October 7th. The response is disproportionate. And we all know, well, we should all know, if you listen to the Israeli government, that they want that land. Okay? So, thankfully, Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson have enough, I guess, decency to realize that killing children and starving them to death and letting babies starve to death and killing their parents is a bad thing. We shouldn't be praising people for saying the obviously correct thing to say while an ongoing genocide is happening. Okay? Tucker Carlson is the person who platformed Andrew Tate and essentially, how do I say this politely, was on his knees the whole time and just, had no problem letting Andrew have his way in the conversation, saying the most misogynistic bullshit you ever did hear. Candace Owens is someone who has literally said, I'm not a flat earther, but I'm also not a round earther. I don't subscribe to the cult of science. Okay, these are not serious people. Just because the broken clock is right on this issue does not mean that they are somehow trustworthy on other topics. Hard freaking stop. Hard stop. That being said, let me check this poll. All right, I'm curious. So at the beginning of this live, I threw a poll. I have to go to my own channel. Like I said earlier, that my program that I use doesn't show me the poll live. So let me check this out. I want to see what you guys thought about, do you platform, do you not? So the poll is, okay, so the poll has shifted. Only about a quarter of people think that we should platform fascists because it exposes them. 44% of you say no, and 30% of you say unsure. Totally fair. Totally fair. But I did want to play, that response from Mehdi just to give you guys perspective. Like, this is real. And these folks are deadly serious, and they are emboldened by this administration. That's important to know. I don't have magic answers for you guys about what we do about it. And I don't think that there's only one right or wrong way to do this. I think that there's a whole plethora of options, and people have to handle this how they need to handle this. I think politically, if this does not radicalize you to fight back with empathy and love and truth and a kind of tenacity that says, I refuse to let Christian nationalists and Christian fascists who are Nazi sympathizers take over the country, now is the time to get involved in local politics. Now is the time to give to candidates that you think are doing good work. Now is the time to demand that the Democratic Party wake the hell up and grow a freaking spine and start saying what needs to be said, because God knows we've all been pretty disappointed in how they've handled so much of this shit. If we're gonna, I don't like talking in such intense terms, but if we're gonna save democracy or try and scrape off the ground whatever little is left of it so we can rebuild something more beautiful that promotes the human flourishing of all of our neighbors, that stops the billionaire class from pillaging the middle and lower class, that refuses and stops healthcare companies from pillaging the sick, we absolutely need to build big tents and big coalitions, and we need to freaking work together. Period. We just have to, friends. It should not be extreme in America to think that all Americans or all citizens or all people in this country deserve affordable health care. Like, these are not radical positions. It is not radical to think that if you're working, you should be able to provide for yourself and your family without going into tons of debt. Not crazy to think that if you want to go to higher education, you shouldn't be straddled or strapped with 6 figures of debt with an interest rate that literally ensnares you for life. These are not wild positions, but for some reason, we've allowed this far-right lunacy to convince people that it's a progressive social Marxist platform to think that healthcare should be a thing for all people without worrying about going into medical debt. Or people feeling like, oh, well, if I call for an ambulance ride, I can't afford it, so I'll just suffer in pain. And somehow we think what's normal is a madman in the White House who lies about everything, including being on the goddamn Epstein list. And somehow that's just how it is today in America. A man who literally incited an insurrection 4 years ago. His own supporters brought a freaking noose to the Capitol building. They brought a cross. They brought a Christian flag. They thanked Jesus in the Senate chambers for this opportunity in the name of Jesus to storm the Capitol, to save America by making sure that Trump was really elected. That's not normal. That is lunacy. And somehow this right-wing media world has done a great job convincing people that somehow Trump and MAGA is okay, but affordable health care is crazy. Protecting the climate is crazy. Holding billionaires accountable and taxing them is somehow wild. People who have so much money they couldn't spend it in a million lifetimes if they wanted to. Somehow taxing them to fund social programs for the middle and lower class that is being pillaged is wild. It's unbelievable. It's crazy. So I say that as I end my little rant as just a way of saying, like, please be clear-eyed here. We have work to do. We must work together. Okay, we got to build big tents. We got to build big coalitions to work together. Friends, look, this is my last live for the whole month. I will be out in the rest of this month and through August. I'm taking a break from TNE. It was one of the things that the team who is behind all of this really insisted I do after 4 years of grinding it out. So I will not be going live for the next couple weeks. I will miss all of you. I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate all of you who tune into these things. I don't want to get too emotional about it, but it is truly an honor and a privilege that you would spend your night hanging out with me doing this stuff. I don't take it lightly. It is just such an honor to do this. I'm very fortunate that I get to go live and have an audience of 250, 300 people who want to chime in and share their thoughts. And, you know, TNE totally started as a fluke. I started an Instagram account 4 years ago. I wanted to find a better path forward in my faith. I couldn't reconcile Trump and the church's response to Black Lives Matter and to COVID, and I had no clue what I was doing. No freaking clue. And 4 years later, a nonprofit organization later, a couple 100,000 followers later, here we are. A new executive director later, you know, Melinda Hale doing amazing things. Here we are. So I'm going to miss you guys, you know, for the month of August, but I'm looking forward to my break. I will be really signing off. I'll be a little active on my personal accounts, Tim Whitaker Speaks, you know, just fun stuff. Nothing that takes real effort to do. But, yeah, I'm going to miss you guys, and I'm really grateful for all of you. Don't forget we have merch if you want to support the work that we're doing. And, yeah. I don't know. It feels like I'm going away forever. I'm not. It just means a lot so that you guys are here. That's all. Hey, have a great night. Thanks for your time. You're not alone, and I'll be back in a month. See you all in September. Bye.